Hello and welcome to today's seminar on a system of insight. My name is Barry Kelly, and with me today is Rob Santos, our practice manager for our Infrastructure Solutions Group, and Sue Nyeti-Golder, a technical solutions specialist, who will be participating. For those who haven't attended one of our webinars, we are recording the session, and you will get a recording, a link to the recording, and a PDF of all the slides. If you have any follow-up questions or questions during the seminar, please enter them into the chat line, and we will respond during the webinar and then follow up with any questions we aren't able to reach immediately. This is the last of a series of 3 webinars we've done on the foundation elements of a GIS-centric enterprise asset management structure. We've been talking a lot about how you can better manage your assets in a variety of systems. So we previously reviewed the system of record and system of engagement in a moment. Today, however, we're going to be looking at a system of insight, that final necessary component, providing a methodology on how to aggregate all the masses of data we have into actionable decisions. I'm looking forward to this. Again, the broadcast, all the information on the broadcast is available to you. You've been connected and have been put on mute for this one. And again, please click the request phone button for any information you need or any assistance you might need. We have someone monitoring the call for us. A few little tips on how to use the WebEx, just the toolbar you have at the top or somewhere on your screen to look at the information and be able to get on and off the webinar. And finally, as I mentioned, the chat panel, they're up on the top of your screen. It should have a little chat link, and it'll bring up a panel for you to enter your questions in. And they'll be recorded, and we'll follow up with those afterwards as well as required. So today we're going to cover a number of different areas. So looking, again, a recap, as I mentioned, we're going to discuss and demonstrate some of the pieces of the insight system of insight, the asset management framework, and sites for ArcGIS. Look at some of the resources that are available to you. We will, again, focus on the extracting all that information you have and bringing that together, the role of ArcGIS in asset management, and discuss these pieces. Now, this is sort of a background story. I was on a CNAM, Canadian Network of Asset Managers panel. We talked about, question was to the panel, are we getting too much information these days in a system, the Internet of Things? There is a data, but as GIS people, I don't think that you can have too much information. What is a challenge, I think we are getting buried in it, so we are starting for insights. So with this, we want to know more about that information. So data, yes, is important, however, not as important as the answer. So this is what we're going to be looking at today. How do we make sense of these answers and help them tell us stories? So overall, the system that we're looking at, we talked about the system of record, information about your repository of authoritative data, the data governance around that. Was a starting point and something that will be continued to evolve. Your system of engagement, how do I interact with that data? And then finally today we're looking at system of insight. So there's 3 components to this, all using ArcGIS as that foundation piece. Briefly review that. So what we covered in the system of record, now that there will be a link to both webinars at the end of this session as well too that you can refer back to. But the system of record is something that helps promote the asset management process, developing that central repository for your data. Having a data governance model is a key part of that too. How do I organize that information? How do I have it in such a way that I can continue to and repeatably update information and add more and more intelligence to that? And then finally, using a core of ArcGIS apps and tools that we have available, templates that are available to you for download to help, again, automate and jumpstart some of that process. In that, often we're looking for quick wins, finding a project that will help kick things off and get things started. System of engagement was the second webinar that we did, and it talks a lot about that structure of now that I've got this data, how am I going to interact with it? Who needs to use it? Who wants to interact? And what do we do with that information? So things like work order systems, the data collection is still part of that and will be ongoing, but the inspections, work orders, permitting, those types of activities you might have. There are groups outside of your organization that want to interact with that information. So there's quite a few people that need to look at that data, want information from you. So we're trying to enable those people to use that information in their businesses or activities, collaborate to add more intelligence to it, and again, fully engage with that. Quote I had from the IAM newsletter talking about managing assets is not an alternative to asset management. It's just that doing all the life cycle activities without a ruling integrated purpose cannot be considered worthwhile. So that's that structure you need around that. So today we're going to look at a system of insight. A number of different areas here. We want to be able to enable people to combine the people, process, and technologies to allow for more exploratory type spatial analysis. You're going to see some of the work that Sue and Rob are going to cover today and how that information, the data that you've been collecting can be very powerful in your future decisions. Systems insights, something that can support your organization in that decision-making process, identifying trends and patterns in pretty much real near time. Allow you to organize that into efficient, cost-effective ways, and allows a system of insight to integrate with a system of engagement. The idea, again, that meet your organizational goals, you start asking questions such as the ones listed here. How does the age of housing development relate to the number of leaks? Are there any outliers in the data? Are there service centers? Where do I locate service centers? There's a lot of information that can be brought together to help you make those decisions. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rob Santos, who's going to lead you through some of the asset management.
Great. Thank you very much, Barry. So as Barry mentioned, we're going to look into how you would use the information from the gathered from the various other seminars, the previous seminars, the system of record, and also system of engagement, to be able to ascertain the information required and also the data required to make effective decisions on infrastructure renewals and prioritization. So I'll focus my portion of the presentation on our asset management framework and the various system analysis and spatial analysis that you can perform based on the information for infrastructure management. So we work with our customers across the country, and this is a very typical business problem related to asset management, and in that asset managers are experiencing an issue with regards to the lack of information related to their assets, such as the state and condition of their assets, the relative risk of failure of the assets, the initial costs of assets, and also the overall life cycle costs of assets. So currently the process is very subjective. It's a very subjective decision-making process in terms of selecting investments in the short term, so the 1 to 5 year term, and the long term as well, 10 years and plus, without making and taking into full consideration information that's related to the impacts of the environment, social, and financial aspects of asset management. So to address this, organization, and in particular municipalities, Canadian municipalities across the country are now required to develop asset management plans to qualify for current infrastructure funding programs such as the Building Canada Fund and the Gas Tax Fund. So the typical information that's usually contained in asset management plans are what we own, where is it, what is it worth, what condition is it in, what is the remaining service life of the asset. And in a lot of respects, the following is quite important with regards to the outputs of the plan, such as what do you fix first and what are the costs of the strategies. So this may take into account from a prioritization perspective a risk-based approach to prioritization, and also what is the best and effective strategy for available funding to be able to renew assets. So at ESRI Canada, we've put together what we call an asset management framework, which contains the 3 main pillars of asset management in this case. So the asset registry, which is the foundational element of an enterprise asset management system, and which also relates to the first seminar series, which is the system of records, is the asset inventory with regards to your GIS database. So the GIS database is the main repository of asset information For performance management, which is the day-to-day operation and maintenance of assets based on established level of service and also the associated service delivery of the assets. So this subject area relates to the second seminar, which is a system of engagement. And the third pillar, which is the capital asset investment planning, is a framework for managing assets and establishing investments to meet key service goals. So this third subject area relates to the seminar, which we're going to describe in terms of the solutions and also approaches for some organizations to meet the needs of infrastructure planning. So to summarize, again, the asset registry is the GIS database. So you can use your existing tools in Esri, such as ArcMap, Collector, or ArcGIS Online, to be able to manage that inventory. From a performance management perspective, this can be achieved, again, using ArcGIS software and also other business partner applications and solutions, for example, CMMS, to be able to capture the day-to-day operation and maintenance of assets with work orders, inspections, and service requests, hydraulic modeling software for water, sewer, inspections, customized inspection software such as sewer CCTV inspections, and pavement management systems to be able to capture the condition scores of assets as well. And in terms of capacity planning and so forth and forecasting the capacity of assets, this is, again, where hydraulic modeling software comes into play. So these are key data elements that are captured by this system, such as asset condition information, asset maintenance history, asset maintenance costs by asset and activity, and capacity and performance of assets in terms of current state and future state as well. On the capital investment planning side of things, it incorporates the data captured in the asset registry and also the information captured in the day-to-day tactical systems, these operational systems, to be able to allow you to develop capital investment plans. So with this in mind, you can use Esri software to be able to develop models in terms of asset lifecycle models for analysis of remaining service life of the assets and so forth, and remaining costs or replacement costs of assets. You can also develop risk models as well for prioritization of asset replacements and so on. And with the outputs of the lifecycle model and risk model, you can develop capital project decision support tools to be able to develop integrated capital plans as well of assets within the right-of-ways. So let's take a look at some of these example models. With Esri Canada, we've developed a number of asset management models, and one in particular is the asset lifecycle. And the asset lifecycle model uses condition information captured through again, day-to-day systems, whether it's your CMMS or specialized inspection software, to use the condition scores derived from these systems to be able to derive the condition, and from there calculate the remaining service life of the asset. You can also incorporate a asset degradation curve as well, based on your knowledge of your assets within your organization, to be able to have a better approach and also a more accurate approach to the remaining service life of the asset in terms of their calculation. And once you do have the information related to the remaining service life of the asset, the model can calculate the replacement costs of the asset. You can also incorporate rehabilitation events along the life cycle of the asset as well, based on condition thresholds. So these are the required data elements that a typical life cycle model would use. And some of this information you may already have in your existing GIS features, such as the installation date or the estimated service life of the asset. All other attributes can be calculated by the model, such as the residual life of the asset replacement cost, the estimated replacement cost of the asset, replacement date. Condition information, again, is captured through your CMMS or specialized inspection system, and also the condition date is useful in the model. Once you have this information, you are able to develop a model. In this case here, this is Model Builder. So it's a software that you already have in your organization that you can leverage to develop these models. So this model here incorporates both a condition-based approach to life cycle planning and also an age-based approach to life cycle planning. So depending on the information that you have on your assets, so if you have condition information and that condition field is populated in the attribute feature class of your asset or object class, it uses that condition information to calculate the remaining service life of the asset, and from there it would also calculate the replacement cost of the asset. On this side of the model is more of an age-based approach. So if you don't have condition information, the system will, or the model will assume a condition of the asset, and from there the remaining service life of the asset and calculation of the replacement costs. You can also incorporate parameters as part of this model. So a parameter could be the formula for the degradation curve of the asset. Another parameter could be an inflation cost of the asset. So as part of the model, it can use the present day replacement cost of the asset, including the inflationary costs year over year, to calculate the replacement costs in the future, so the future replacement costs of the asset. So an example of this is the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, which is the northeast, the very northeast corner of BC. We had worked with the municipality to incorporate the life cycle model against their roads, and they already had information against their road segments, such as the inspection date, the condition date of the asset, the expected service life of the asset, and so forth. And by merely adding the additional fields in the model and then running the model, calculated the replacement date, replacement cost of the asset, and percent life consumed, and so forth. And as a result of that, they're able to easily develop a thematic map of their road network, identifying streets that need to be replaced in the near term and in the long term as well, quite simply. And also the ability to generate an asset investment plan as well in terms of cost of replacement on a year-by-year basis. Another life cycle model that we had built is with the City of Kitchener. In this case, this is their sewer life cycle model. And with the City of Kitchener, they had also included a rehabilitation event when the sewers hit a specific condition rating. In this case here, a sewer relining, which improves the condition of the asset and also would extend the asset by another 60 years, therefore deferring the full replacement of the asset well into the future. So in this asset investment plan, which is a 100-year projection, there you can see that it's broken out in terms of operation and maintenance costs, replacement costs, and rehabilitation costs of assets. And in this section of the life cycle of the asset, you can see the relining events that would occur based on the threshold as identified in the model. And well into the life cycle of the asset as well, the full replacement of sewers at the city. And of course, you can have multiple assets within a single report in terms of investment plans and so forth. So in this case here, this is a combination of water, storm, sewer, and roads. And this information is typically used in asset management plans as well, along with other reports from the system, such as the average asset condition by asset type and so forth. You can also produce a report that projects the average asset condition as well, based on the degradation curve that you apply against the asset in the model. And tabular reports. In this case here, this is a report of all assets within the right-of-way, road, water, sewer, and total cost of replacements. This report is an asset replacement list. And in this case here, we're prioritizing by the condition of the asset, condition rating, and the asset's replacement costs and so forth. And in terms of asset analytics, again, you can perform thematic maps as to when assets need to be replaced and color code them. we can create dashboards as well, ArcGIS operations dashboards on ArcGIS Online that you can present the information in more of a dashboard fashion and so on. This is an example of a dashboard for the Nova Scotia roads life cycle model. And what I'd like to do is just demonstrate this dashboard and using the app itself. So just a bit of a disclaimer, this information is using published information from the province of Nova Scotia's website, their road network, which we downloaded, and we had incorporated a number of assumptions in terms of those parameters I mentioned previously, just for demonstration purposes. So you can take a look at a type of operations dashboard that you can configure based on the information that's captured as part of the model. So in this case here, we're seeing all of the road inventory within the province of Nova Scotia. And the starter screen here shows a number of dashboard elements, one of which is the total cost of replacements of roads, all types of roads within the province. We can do a value comparison between the present replacement costs and the future replacement costs. This chart here provides a summary of all the assets and their cost of replacements, and we can expand this out to have a better view of the various street segments and their costs as well. And these charting widgets are all very configurable. Here is a chart for the residual life of all of assets within the province, and we can also configure a number of these filters that you can query against the results as well. So for example, if I wanted to take a look at the estimated replacement cost of assets for those that need to be replaced in 10 years, I can click this on, and what the system will do is filter out the roads that need to be replaced in 10 years, and the charts update accordingly as well. There's also the ability to search by road class. So if I wanted to take a look at the cost for arterial highway replacements, and I can just filter that out and apply the search criteria. And again, the various chart widgets update accordingly as well. So that's just an example of an operations dashboard that you can configure using the operations dashboard application from ArcGIS Online. So moving on. So in terms of risk modeling, so risk is one of the 6 subject areas of the Institute of Asset Management model, and it's an important component when it comes to requiring a risk-based approach to replacements of assets. So in essence, risk is comprised of 2 main factors, the consequence of failure of assets and the probability of failure of assets as well, to derive the overall risk of the asset. This is where you can really utilize the location of the asset in the GIS and other features around it, such as other assets, environmental layers, features, capacity information related to the asset as well, to come up with consequence of failure, probability of failure, your operational systems again, the repair history against the asset, the condition score of the asset based on inspections, and so on. So here's an example of a model builder model for risk assessment. So we're taking into consideration the proximity of the asset to other features in the map, the capacity information associated to the asset, the repair information, and then the overall risk calculation. Now, taking that a step further, as a case study with the City of Kitchener, they've taken the same approach with the consequence of failure and probability of failure, but they've added quite a number of other elements within their model. And as you can see, there's a large emphasis a weighting factor on the location of the asset and its associated criticality. And associated to the location as well is its connectivity and proximity of the assets to other features in the map. So in terms of connectivity, the city is able to trace their network to be able to ascertain if the street segment is connected to a facility, such as a government facility or health facility and so forth. And also if it's feeding a large consumer or a customer as well as part of the network. Distance to water in this case, environmental features, and distance to other high-value utilities and other assets within the right-of-way. Distance to buildings, so if it's closer to buildings, it poses a challenge and also a safety issue with regards to excavation and so forth. And other information related to consequence of failure, the size of the pipe diameter, it's information related to its location again. Is it underneath a highway or arterial roadway and so forth. On the probability of failure, the city has used their sewer CCTV inspections as the main source for the probability of failure of their assets. In this case here, sewers. And as a result, they're able to provide a thematic map of the overall risk score of the asset. And what the city really likes about this is that they're able to select features on the map and then view the outputs of the calculations, so the various scores, so that they're able to justify and validate why an asset is of high risk or criticality. And again, other examples with regards to being able to thematically map the outputs of the model, such as probability of failure, consequence of failure, and overall risk exposure of the asset, and being able to turn those layers off and on in the map. And again, you can use operations dashboard to be able to show the outputs of the risk analysis. And other components that you may have from your operational systems, such as your CMMS and so forth, to capture information such as the amount of maintenance associated to the asset, the concentration of maintenance activities, the overall total cost of maintenance associated to your assets as well. And this, with regards to development of an integrated capital project decision support process, the outputs of the life cycle model. So once you know when an asset needs to be replaced and the cost of replacement and their overall risk, you can use this information to develop other processes and models within your Esri environment to be able to develop integrated plans of asset renewals within right-of-ways. So an example of this is the output of this model, where it takes the individual assets replacement date and costs, and also the risk, and averages that information out into these polygon layers, which are auto-generated by the model. So in terms of the generation of these polygons, which will summarize the information with regards to overall costs of different assets within the right-of-way, the dates of replacement, and also the average risk of all assets within the right-of-ways. You can also incorporate constraints within the model as well. So only generate polygons, for example, if you have a constraint of X number of dollars for capital improvement projects over the next 5 years, and only generate those assets based on the highest risk and so forth, and identify the road segments that you need to focus on. So that's one example. Another example is based on average condition of assets within the right-of-ways at a target condition, only generate those assets or these polygons within the right-of-ways based on target condition and so on. So there's quite a bit of what-if analysis you can perform based on the outputs of the life cycle and the risk model to be able to develop integrated plans within right-of-ways. And again, as you select the features these polygon features on the map, it can provide you with a summary of costs based on the asset class within that polygon. So if you have road, sewer, water, storm, or so on, it can average out or tally the total cost of asset replacements within the right-of-way. So having said that, I'm going to pass it over to Sue, and she'll provide more information on ArcGIS Insights and also Operations Dashboard.
Sorry about that, folks. We had a bit of a slide mix-up. So I'm just going to take the next couple minutes to talk to you about Insights, a new application that became available with ArcGIS Enterprise 10.5. And it's a new way for you to visualize and analyze your data. It can help you better understand and answer questions about your data to support major decision-making about assets in your organization. So what I'm going to do is actually take you to my screen, and this is better seen in a demo. So you can see that I'm in my ArcGIS Enterprise organization, which in our case is on Microsoft Azure virtual machine. So I have ArcGIS Enterprise with Portal. And I have an account with this organization that I've already signed in, and I've been granted an Insights license by my ArcGIS organization administrator, and I'm ready to start using Insights now. So how do I access Insights? I can go from my app switcher, and it will take me right to Insights, which works in my web environment. So Insights, you work with a series of workbooks where you do all your visualization and analysis. We can see I have a number of existing workbooks I've already worked with. I'm actually going to start with a new workbook to show you how Insights works right from scratch. Once I get my new workbook going, then I'm able to go and add data from my organization. And Insights supports different types of information. So first of all, information hosted in my ArcGIS online organization, also from the Living Atlas. I could upload an Excel or CSV table, so it doesn't have to be strictly spatial data to start with. And I can also connect to different types of databases, enterprise and other ones. So I'm going to go and actually do a search in my organization for content on the City of Lethbridge, which is the setting for our demo. So once I search on that, I can see a couple different layers. So if I click just view details here, I can see this Lethbridge 311 information. It's actually 311 calls for 2 years for the city. There's actually 3 different layers. I'm going to choose to add all of those. And I'm just going to also add a layer for my neighborhoods that I want to work with. So I have 4 layers, and I'm just going to go and add them. So Insights, you work in this workbook, and you have pages. You can add multiple pages, and you interact with cards with your data sets. So by default, just because I've added some spatial data sets, we can see that they've created map cards, but I'll show you some other options in just a moment. I also have a contents layer where I can expand my different data sets I'm working with. I can see all the attributes that are available to me, and we're just going to rearrange our cards a little bit. You can, it's a little bit of a different experience than, say, working in a map viewer, but I can resize my cards. I can make them bigger or smaller. I can drag and drop them and make them different sizes and so on. Now I'm just going to want to choose to select to work with my service requests. So I'm just going to remove the other options here, the other layers from my cards. They're still available for me in my workbook to work with. I just don't want to work with them right now. So we have information on our cards. We can see that, for example, we have about 13,000 service requests that we're working with. Insights will be recording all of my actions, and I'll be able to save my workbook, and I'll show you that at the end of the demo. So whatever I'm doing now is reusable not only for myself, but I can share with others in my organization. There's a couple of simple things with interacting your map. You can do some selections. You can do zooming in and out, which is pretty standard for a map viewer. I can also link my 2 views here, sync my extents, so the 2 maps would sync. What I can do is right away start working with my map data, with these service requests. I can not only style them by location, but I can pick a category. For example, I can pick my unique symbols here, and you can see in our legend here, we can see the different types of service requests. Then I can start doing some new things. So I've mapped my service request, but let's say that I want to also see this in a different format. So Insights works on a drag and drop principle. It's really easy and intuitive to use. So I'm just going to select my categories, drag them, and when I'm prompted, when I create a new card, I can create a map, a chart, or just view the table. So this time I'm going to choose to create a chart, and this is just a simple bar chart. And what's really nice about Insights is when I'm working with the same data layers, they're interactive between the cards. So if I just want to see water or wastewater layers, when I select them within this chart card, they're reflected in the map card. So that's really nice. And there's different types of chart options, for example, more modern options such as a tree map or a bubble chart. Now, again, Insights is designed to help you to explore your data in a really easy way. So something I see here is that I have a large category for no data, about 4,300 points. I can filter that out. For all my cards, I have this card filter option, which lets me use my various attributes. And in this case, I'm going to go to my categories. And by default, all the different categories are selected. I'm just going to click to use turn the no data option off. And now you can see that we can a bit more accurately see that the larger volume of our calls are, again, water and wastewater. And I could even do a filter on this card here, and I could just even categorize just to see only those water, wastewater calls. So again, I can see for both of these cards, I can see my filter options, and again, they're reflected in the information on my card. So I can go a little bit further than that. There's other options to explore our trends in our data. So let's say we want to, for this card, we have categories right now. We can choose one of the other attributes, just switch it right on the card. Let's go by month, and again, the choices on the bubble chart reflect on the map card to the left there. So I can see that, yeah, a lot of my service calls for my different types of service requests are coming in the summer months. So it's very interactive, a lot of different options to work on these. So I'm just going to, again, move my cards around a bit to give myself a bit more screen real estate. So let's just do another type of analysis here. Just take a quick look at the date initiated for our calls. We can see we just have a simple bar graph, again, interactive with the other two cards we have on the map. If I don't want to have my cards available anymore, I can delete them. But I'm just going to move mine out of the way and do some more analysis. So we can do things like heat mapping. So I'm just going to change, instead of just doing a category, just do a quick heat map. Again, what I'm trying to do is explore where those service calls are coming, where the majority of them are, what time of year, and so on. I'm just going to go back to this category. My filter's still applied. And now I want to look at maybe the distribution of the calls, in particular to the neighborhoods of Lethbridge. So my neighborhood layer here, I actually don't have any attributes beyond the name of the neighborhood and the location. So what if you have all this data you bring in, and there might be some other variables you want to explore in Insights? Well, we have this action button, which gives us either some questions if we're not sure what is the action we want to take. For example, if we want to look at data distribution, Insights will prompt us to maybe use a spatial aggregation tool or a density tool. But if I know exactly what tool I want to use, I can click right on my spatial tools. So these are the tools available to me. This enrich data option is going to be particularly useful because what it's going to let me do is enrich that enrich that Lethbridge neighborhood information with some demographics. And these are provided by Esri's demographic service. So I'm going to open my data browser. And once I set my country, the list of variables available for Canada will come in, and these are provided by Environics Analytics. So I can just explore the variables. So I can see the popular variables are listed here, but I can also show all of them. But let's say I want to explore population. And let's see, under these key facts, I can look at household numbers, average household size. So I'm trying to think of different kinds of demographics that might be important for me to look at why are service calls higher in some neighborhoods than others. From housing, maybe the tenure. So if a house is owned or a property is owned or rented, maybe there's some correlation there. If I look at all the housing variables, you see there's a lot of them. What I find interesting is there's ones on period of construction for my dwellings. So maybe older buildings, maybe older dwellings will have a higher number of service calls. So I'm going to explore that. So once I've selected all my variables, I will see them listed here, and I'm going to just choose to apply. And I see a summary here. Oops, I just kind of lost that. Sorry about that. Let's just go and do this again. There we go, open data browser. You can see how quickly I can click them. So let's go back and total households and, oops, housing, here we go, owned and rented, and one more. And it's very quick and easy to do. Okay, apply. I'm going to run. You can see that it's loading. So what's happening now is Insights is appending that demographic information to my Lethbridge neighborhoods. So I can see that I have this enrichment count layer available for me. I'm just going to remove this original layer here so we don't see that. We just see the enriched layer. And we can actually see the information for this card and the contents now. I have those extra attributes available to me. So the population down to year of construction. So I don't want to explore these variables in themselves. I want to explore them with regard to my service requests and their location. So what's interesting with Insights is I can map or work with multiple attributes within a card, multiple layers. So just pulling the location attribute for service requests to the card where I have that enriched neighborhood information, what I'm going to do is choose the spatial aggregation option. So what it's going to do is summarize my service requests using the count feature. You have different options, and it's going to summarize this by the neighborhood. So they're just quickly symbolized here, and you have these pop-ups that tell you the values, the counts for service requests by neighborhood. That gives me a look at some of these neighborhoods have more service requests, some have others. Okay, that's just a quick and simple analysis, but let's look at doing more with these demographics. Now I have available to me for my demographic information here. Let me just pull up the card. I can then look at more variables. So I can look at the count of service requests and let's say the population. I'm going to create a new card that's going to use a chart and just rearrange my real estate here a little bit. So this is just plotting on this simple scatter plot the daytime population and the number of service requests. That's pretty obvious there's a relationship. It's not a huge correlation. You do have these statistics where I can chart the polynomial and get the R-squared value. But now I can explore some other options, such as maybe the household size. Again, I can see do the service requests massively increase for that? Or what might be interesting, ownership, home ownership. If it's owned versus rented, are there more service calls? Or even that construction period, which is quite a strong correlation with, you can see with the R-squared, that as a home is owned for longer, you do expect to have more service requests for things like your infrastructure. So this, again, you could explore all kinds of variables. These are just a couple of simple examples. But what it's getting you to think about is how different variables in your data can impact them and how you can do some really quick and easy analysis to get some insights into your data. So I don't only want to work with this Insights, this data within the Insights application. I can share it, and there's different options. First, I'm going to save my workbook. And now the contents of this workbook, all these different types of analysis, including my data enrichment, they're available within this workbook, and I can share this workbook as well. I also have different options to share these data layers. So for example, this one layer that had the Lethbridge neighborhoods I enriched with all those population variables. If I choose to share the data, what happens is I create a new item in my ArcGIS organization, and I can share specifically with everyone, or I can share within just my group. I have a Lethbridge 311 group here. And once I share this, this layer will be available for different users in the ArcGIS system. So I could view it in my ArcGIS online map viewer. I could view it in ArcGIS desktop with ArcGIS Pro. So that enriched data layer that I've completed here will be now available for other users. There's other options for sharing. As I mentioned, Insights does record everything you do. So you can see this analysis view shows me from the start how I added my data, did some things like data enrichment and filters, and did some styling, and it ended up with a number of different cards with different types of analysis. So again, I can share this. I can share my page, and when I share my page, what it does is it makes this available to others. So it's a little different than sharing my workbook, because sharing my workbook would share everything and someone could actually open up this workbook and complete my analysis. Sharing a page, you could share with anyone you want. You could share outside your organization. What that would do is just share, I'll actually show you. If I view my shared page, it would actually just show you the results of your analysis. Users can't do new analysis through this type of sharing, but what they can do is interact with the different types of data. So that's just a quick look at sharing. So hopefully you got a good view of what Insights can do for you and how it can work. And with that, I will hand it back to Barry.
Thanks, Sue. Very interesting tools, and be able to take that data now after you've done the analysis and bring it into something like your maintenance management system. And one more. There was one case example. Now, there's a couple of links at the bottom of this page. It's been promoted by Esri and by CityWorks as well, too, some of the work they've been doing. So they've been, the Opelika water utilities, pardon me, have been, again, about 20,000 customers that were going through a drought. So they needed to really save as much money as they possibly could. So just with some reviews that we're doing based on inspections, based on analysis, based on the records, they've set up systems to look for, say, meters that have incorrect readings. And from that alone, they were able to bring in an extra $300,000 a year from those dead meters. You know, you can then look at manufacturers. Is it a specific manufacturer that's a problem? Is it the age of it? All these different factors, like Sue was looking at, can be identified. And then also the replacement of those meters, again, they just could be, they're just old, just need to be, they fail. So they've been able to save quite a substantial amount of money from this analysis, and they're looking for, they're still fairly new with the program, obviously. Insights for ArcGIS is not an old product, so many of our customers are experimenting with it now, and Opelika is continuing to expand with their usage of that. So quite fascinating work that they've been doing. So just to wrap up, I think we've run a little longer than we had. Again, please enter your questions into the chat box that we have, the Q&A, that we can then respond to you. I think some of them have been answered already, but Rob introduced this idea, but the whole concept of that enterprise asset management is it's a process, not a project. So looking at ways to improve our capabilities with the analysis that you have, working on that registry, your system of record, working with your data, and then gaining insights as a full circle. And this will continue to improve. As just a general idea, if we look at those three phases, down on the lower left, the system of record, the data acquisition phases that are continuing, and some of the tools that are appropriate for that, the enablement processes, getting information out, even web maps out to the public, the open data type sites, getting data into the system, out to your residents, businesses, etc. And then further on to that, the analysis part, so looking at insights for ArcGIS, CityWorks Insights, and the asset management framework that Esri Canada has developed. So these are tools that you can help you along the path. And then, again, where do we go from here? And there are a number of different pieces. Esri Canada is always here to help. As I think Rob responded to one of the questions of the models that we develop, we work with customers to implement and look at their needs for those models. So we'd be glad to work with you on those. But the idea here is the data is available to people in how they need it and where they need it. A system of systems, if you will, the record system of record, engagement, and insight are all part of that asset management framework that we have, making sure that the information is accurate. As I say, the more people use that information, the more valuable it becomes. And you'll find that from your field staff as well too, they will appreciate and begin to trust that information. And again, that it just becomes an upward spiral of data quality and data usage. Just some links as well too. If you're not familiar with it, there has been webinars. We've done this as well too on the management municipal asset management program by the FCM. Federation of Canadian Municipalities. $50 million is available to you, and quite a few municipalities have taken them up on that. So the asset could be just again a number of different types of projects that are listed. That and there's a good report on that. There's also funding for green municipal funds, and again, Esri and ArcGIS play a large part in that green municipal capacities. There always has been that category in the gas tax funds for capacity building, which is similar to the new MAMP program. So that is still available, and to some municipalities have used it, but I'm very pleased to see that the federal government had worked to create a special fund that is just targeted at asset management, and some other GreenLink type tools that are part of our solution site. So Esri has developed a lot of apps and templates for you to help with this work, and hopefully that you'll go up and discover those on your own. To that point, the ArcGIS for local government, that's a solutions.arcgis.com site, has all these templates, and they're broken down into, well, there's a category for water, and even that's broken down into water, wastewater, storm, public works, there's facilities information, parks and rec, all these different applications. I don't know how many there are now, 150 or more of these templates that are up there for you to download and start using, and are fully supported by Esri Inc., Esri Canada. CityWorks, some of the tools, some of the analysis Rob was showing was driven through CityWorks, and we are the distributor for that. Highly recommend you get involved in some of the communities, the GeoNet community, and also there's a meetup communities for both public works and water, and I'm certain that there are others as well too. So that's where you'll find out about a number of the webinars that are being hosted by Esri Inc. And again, just the ability to exchange information with these different communities. As I mentioned at the start, we have done a number of different webinars over the past couple of years now. We'll continue into 2018, but and even recently there was an excellent one delivered a couple of days ago by CityWorks for their using the Insights, CityWorks Insights and Insights for ArcGIS. And if that's available when we publish these, I'll get that link included with that for you as well too. And I mentioned some of the work that was done, a blog that Karen Stewart wrote on the Enterprise Asset Management Funding, that MAMP program. You can get some more details and links to that. And I believe we're coming close. So yes, thank you very much for attending today. Greatly appreciate your time. Our apologies, we've had some challenges on the sound side of things that we are going to definitely have to look at. That's been an unfortunate part and not made this as enjoyable as it possibly could be. So yes, that system of insight is something, again, is vital to your organization. Something that you can work with. Data is great to have. More data is even better. And as you say, there's no such thing as too much data. The quality and how it's processed and how it's managed is up to you, and something we can help you with. Different people in your organizations, your council members will have different needs and want different insights than your operations managers, than your field staff. There's different things that you can look at with that information. Again, we've gone leaps and bounds beyond those spreadsheets, and I hope you've seen that today. And obviously, for us, ArcGIS is a core part of that, a fundamental part of that asset management work at all aspects of this. Future events, for those in the Toronto region, we are having a seminar, a full-day seminar next week, as a matter of fact, on November 1st at the Toronto Congress Centre. And the link to that site, you can go onto our website and register for that. We've been talking about some of this asset management with more customer stories, which I think you'll find quite interesting. Talking linear assets, asset management as well. So there's some great presentations during that session. And in essence, a CityWorks user group meeting or discussion at the same time. Again, thank you for being with us today. I think at this point there's nothing further to discuss here with us, but we are opening it for questions. I don't know if there's anything that need to be addressed directly. I think Sue and Rob have been answering a lot of the questions. Was there anything, Rob or Sue, that you wanted to highlight?
Hi, Barry. I'll take the question. There was a question about licensing for insights and dashboards. So Ops Dashboard is included with your ArcGIS organization. So whether you're ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise, Dashboard is an app that is included as part of that organization. There's no additional cost. Now, Insights right now, as I mentioned, comes with, it's part of Enterprise at the 10.5 release. It is considered a premium app, so it does need to be licensed separately, and it's something you could contact your account manager about to find out licensing. So Dashboard, yes, that's automatically included, but Insights is an additional purchase. It's a premium license. The dashboard as well, Rob, I believe you showed the new version of the dashboard. So there's an existing Ops Dashboard. The newer version is currently in beta. There is a public beta that is openly available to you, and again, you can sign in with your organization.
Hi. There's a question here from William Doyle regarding the links in the WebEx presentation. No, they aren't live from there, but yes, when you do receive the PDF file, those links will be embedded in the presentation. You'll be able to, again, search those sites as you wish. And I think we'll keep the lines open here for the remainder of the last few minutes, but I think a lot of those questions have been answered, and we will follow up again with that full set of questions as part of the PDF that gets sent out with these, so you'll have a response to all of them. Sue and Rob are nodding their heads. Things are looking good. Nothing, no showstoppers, no stumping. Haven't been stumped yet.